Okay, Terry. I'll let you have a half a fourth for that. One of these days, you and me are going to have one hell of a freak party. You can bet on that, Porky said. Terry waited until Big Ed brought her the dope before finding some paper that had had dope in it before. She shook out a small amount, making sure it was less than what a $10 pack would be, and wrapped it up the same as all of Porky's packs. Ain't you getting cute? Porky's loud laughter rang out. I just bet that little amount is going to your smart-ass friend. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she continued to fold the tiny pack. It ain't your concern one way or the other, she answered sharply. Terry finished folding it and got up. Big Ed led her out the door. As she passed him, he reached out and rubbed her ass. Your mammy should have taught you to keep your hands where they belong, she yelled over her shoulder as she continued down the stairs. When she got out on the street, Minnie was standing in the cold waiting for her. Did you get that for me, Terry? Did you get it? She asked in a frightened voice. Ever since Terry had left the cop without her, she'd harbored the fear that Terry would return without any dope for her. Without replying, Terry held out the tiny package to her. Minnie snatched at the package. It was as though she couldn't really believe it was hers until she held it in her hand. Thank you, honey. I'll pay you back for this, don't worry. Shrugging her shoulders, Terry led the way into the hotel. I'll be in my room if you want me, Minnie, she said, and ran up the stairs. She cooked up her dew and hit in the vein in the back of her hand. Since she had just started shooting, Terry had no trouble finding a vein that would pay off. In time, if she kept using, the veins would become harder and harder to hit. After shooting up part of her dope and cleaning up her works, Terry stretched out on the bed. She could feel the dope working. She lay back and stared at the ceiling as a warmth invaded her soul. It felt as though she were drifting in a sea of foam. Soon the foam enveloped her in a mist of well-being, and her sordid surroundings became an illusion. Her world now became the world of dreams, devoid of fears, pleasing to the senses. As long as the dope she had on the dresser lasted, she would drift through an infinite time, boundless, with no regard to past or future. 14. The snow continued to fall, bringing Terry much difficulty in her new profession. She cursed the snow, cursed Minnie, who had become a parasite, cursed Teddy, who had started her using. Again, she mentally counted the money in her bra. No matter how many times she counted it, it wouldn't get past the $15 mark until she turned another trick. She had enough to go in now and get a fix, but there was always the morning to worry about, and she had had enough of waking up sick. A red-headed teenager blew his horn at her while pulling over to park. She ran over to the car before any of the other girls on the street could get to him. She jumped in beside him. Hi, honey. You looking for a girl? She asked as she quickly put her hand on his leg and rubbed his thigh. Yeah, he gulped, his face turning red. He was young, with long red hair and freckles. How much can you spend, honey? She asked softly, her hand running up higher on his leg. Just $8, he managed to say. Honey, Terry dragged the word out as though it were a caress. That ain't enough money to give no girl for making love to you. How you expect her to pay the hotel room and everything out of such a little amount of money? He hesitated for just a moment, the feel of her hand on his leg making up his mind. I got $5 more, but I need that to buy gas the rest of the week so I can go to school. She removed her hand from his leg and pretended to reach for the door. Well, if you think I ain't worth $13, I might as well find me somebody who does. Again, she reached for the door. You can always borrow $5 from one of your friends so you can go to school. He blushed. Well, I guess I can. He removed his wallet and gave her the money. After sticking the money in her bra, she smiled. This ain't really enough for us to be going to no hotel for, you know. Would you mind if we just did something in the car? He was too much out of his league to argue with her. I don't care. I just don't know where to go. Her sharp eyes had spotted 2 large bills in his wallet when he opened it. She quickly made up her mind to play for it. Just pull around the corner and turn up in the nearest alley, she directed. Following her directions, He drove until he found a deserted garage and pulled up behind it. He parked and shut off the motor. "Should we get in the back?" he asked timidly. His hands were shaking as he tried to light a cigarette. Terry removed the cigarette from his hand and lay up against the door. "Come on, honey, we ain't got all day." She squirmed down on the seat with her back against the door. With slow deliberation, she began to pull up her skirt, tantalizing him with her smooth motions. His breathing became harsh as he stretched out on the seat beside her. She loosened his pants and pushed them down around his hips. With her hand, she guided him into her, while her dexterous fingers removed his wallet. While he was engrossed in the sex act, she fumbled around until she found her coat and stuck the wallet down in it. As soon as he finished, she jumped up. "I'll wash up outside," she said, and leaped out of the car. Once her feet hit the ground, she was running. She passed the garage flying and ran through the yard. When she reached the street, she kept going straight across until she entered another alley. Her breath was coming in gasps, but she continued running. Terry reached another street and started walking slowly, watching the traffic coming both ways. "Terry! Terry!" She turned to see Rico, a tall, light-complexioned Dopefiend, calling her from his front porch. He beckoned for her to cross the street. She looked up and down the street closely before crossing. "What's the deal, Rico?" she yelled as she ran across the street and joined him. "Hey, baby," he said, "I just wanted you to know I got the bag now. If you want to cop, you can give me a little bit of that good business of yours." Her sharp, bitter laugh rang out. "Honey, stuff costs too much money for me to be wasting my bread on some flea," she said flamboyantly, proud of the sting she'd just taken off. "This ain't no flea, Terry. I tell you what, if you cop and don't like it, I'll give you your money back," he said before adding, "Plus, baby, I got some dollar caps." Since she wanted to get in off the street anyway, she followed him inside the flat. She stared around in surprise when she entered. The apartment was completely vacant of furniture. The only thing in the whole living room and dining room was an old mattress. The floor was covered with cigarette butts, and around the mattress were empty red caps. "God damn, Rico. I thought I was living hard, but you win hands down," she stated with honesty. Terry removed the wallet from her coat pocket and counted the money. "The lying son of a bitch," she said under her breath as she removed 3 20s from the wallet. Rico stared at her with interest. He'd been watching her, and for a dope fiend, she was becoming one hell of a whore. "What you do, baby? Take off a sting?" She nodded her head in agreement as she stared around the large, empty flat. "This could be one hell of a place, baby, if you'd fix it up." "All it needs is a woman's touch," he said, dropping his hint. Terry ignored him. She removed a $10 bill from her bra. "Give me 10 of them caps, Rico. Remember what you said, nah? If it ain't nothing but flea, I get my money back." "You'll like it," he said, grinning as he pulled out his bag. He had the pills in a bottle, so they would look like ordinary pills. It wouldn't fool anyone on the Vice Squad, although it might take in some rookies. Terry took off her coat and sat down on the floor. She began opening up the caps, dropping them into a cooker. "How about getting me some clean water, honey?" she asked in a husky voice. When Rico returned with the water, she had already dumped all the caps. She took the water from him, stuck her works inside the glass, and drew up some water in the dropper. She squirted the water on top of the dope inside the cooker, laid the tools down, and got out a book of matches. She held the flame under the cooker until the dope dissolved. Next, she picked up her works and drew some dope up into the dropper. "You want me to hit you, Terry?" Rico asked politely. She shook her head as she tied up her arm with a necktie. "Don't need no help," she replied, too busy to look up. Her eyes closed as the needle slipped into her vein. Rico watched her closely. As soon as the dope took effect, he was aware of it. "You like that, don't you?" he asked quietly. She opened her eyes and stared at him. "It ain't nothing to write home about, but it will do," she replied sharply. He waited a minute and then blurted out, "Why don't you go on and choose, Terry? If we hook up, ain't no stopping us." Her laughter was harsh and cold. "Hook up? Nigga, you ain't able to manage your own money, so how the fuck you think you gonna be able to manage mine? His eyes narrowed in anger.